Hi, good afternoon. My name is Eduardo Delgado, and my sincere apologies for not being there with you at the class, but I kind of had plans for this weekend already. However, I am sending you my presentation. I hope I will make myself clear and enjoy this 10 minutes talk. The case I chose to speak about is a dispute from the World Trade Organization, and it's called DS406. The United States measures affecting the production and sale of clove cigarettes. As you can imagine, cigarettes around the globe are manufactured mainly with tobacco leaves, but in some countries, depending on the local tradition and ingredients, the producers add different flavors, in this case, grinding cloves. Just for your information, cloves are the aromatic flower buds or stems of a tree that we will call for this lecture the clove tree. The Latin names are not my forte. So they are native to a set of islands in Indonesia and are commonly used as a spice. Cloves are commercially harvested primarily in Bangladesh, Indonesia, India, and other Asian and African countries. And also, cloves have the particularity that they are available throughout the year. In this particular case, the clove cigarettes or kretek, that is the local name because of the cracking sound of the clove when the heat reaches one, are being produced at Indonesia, the largest producer of this type of cigarette. Indonesia has been mixing grinding cloves with tobacco leaves for manufacturing kretek since the 19th century. Why, you asked? Mainly because taxes were and are cheap for this type of mixture, while the white cigarettes have higher taxes. This being said, Indonesia has one of the biggest rates of smokers within their population. Around 60% of the people smoke, and from those, 90% smoke kretek. Because of this, another 2 centuries after, Indonesia has hundreds of manufacturers for this type of cigarette, and at some point they started to export to all the world, mainly US, Europe, Africa, and they become the largest export country of kretek. And suddenly, some years after, in a nice and warm day of June of 2009, the FDA, working together with President Obama, signed a bill that banned the use of all types of flavors in tobacco, except menthol, arguing that flavors were the easy entrance for young population into the bad habit of smoking. Interestingly enough, before the ban, 43% of young smokers in the United States consume menthol cigarettes, while 1% of young consumers were using kretek. So from that nice and warm day, it was illegal to import and sell kretek. And this is the tipping point that caused the dispute. And Indonesia, almost 1 year later, in April of 2010, requested to the World Trade Organization a consultation in this matter. This page, I will talk about the reasons exposed by Indonesia. I know it seems a little large in words, but I will try to sum up very fast. The government of Indonesia maintains that the ban of the sale of clove cigarettes in the United States is inconsistent with various US obligations under the World Trade Organization rules and principles, including, first, Indonesia says that the ban is discriminatory under Article 3.4 of the GATT agreement, because cloves and menthols flavors are deemed to be like products, but also stating that all clove cigarettes are imported, while the menthol type are locally produced at US. The second argument is from the Article 20 of the GATT agreement, and it says that provides that any measures taken shall only be applied to the extent necessary to protect human, animal, or plant life or health. The measure shall not constitute a means of arbitrary or unjustifiable discrimination or a disguised restriction on international trade. The technical barriers, this is the third agreement, The technical barriers for trade, or TBT agreement, states among other things that the technical regulations are not more trade restrictive than necessary, and by thus creating unnecessary obstacles to international trade. Also, it states that the United States take account of scientific and technical information in adopting these regulations. Indonesia said that this didn't happen. The fourth argument is that from the Article 12 of the TBT agreement, and that obligates the United States to take into account the special development and trade needs of the developing country members, such as Indonesia, and to ensure that technical regulations do not create unnecessary barriers to exports from developing countries. The fifth argument is from the sanitary and phytosanitary measures, or SPS agreements, that in the class we already discussed them last week. And it comes from the articles 2, 3, 5, and 7. And it mentions or says that these articles provide detailed obligations on the adoption of sanitary and phytosanitary measures necessary to protect human, animal, or plant life or health. In this particular statement or point, I won't talk about each one of those articles. They are very extent. But Indonesia talked about the same issues already presented before as a whole: discrimination of like products, technical information for reaching a ban. But most important, it says in the Article 7 that the members shall notify changes in their sanitary or phytosanitary measures and shall provide information on these sanitary or phytosanitary measures from a long time before the measures applied. Indonesia says with this that they did not receive any prior notification in time. So the dispute was on. In September of 2011, the panel of the World Trade Organization reported four main points. The challenge falls within the scope of the TBT agreement. The ban is inconsistent with the national treatment obligation because the clove and menthol flavored cigarettes are like products, based on point 2.1 of the TBT agreement. The panel declined to rule on Indonesia's claim or on the US defense under Article 3.4 of the GATT. So the panel kind of made an impasse there. But the panel also demonstrated or said that Indonesia failed to demonstrate that the ban is more trade restrictive than necessary to fulfill a legitimate objective, in this case, reducing young smokers. At this point in time, there is some shocking evidence, and is that they found scientific evidence supporting the conclusion that banning clove and other flavored cigarettes could contribute to reducing young smokers. Following the dispute, in April of 2012, again, the panel of the World Trade Organization reported two main points. First, the ban is inconsistent with the national treatment obligation of the TBT agreement because it prohibits imported clove cigarettes from Indonesia but does not prohibit like domestic menthol cigarettes. The second point is that the USA acted inconsistently to the TBT agreement by allowing an interval of less than 6 months between the publication and the entry in force of the ban. After this, United States appealed very quickly to these findings, but the appellate body agreed at the end with these 2 points. In May of 2012, USA informed to the dispute settlement body of its intention to implement the recommendation and ruling in a manner that protects public health and respects its WTO obligations. But that United States mentioned also that it will need a reasonable period of time to do so, meaning around 14 months. So until July of 2013, they were going to apply the new measures. I tried to search what happened in this period of time, but all I can find is that those 14 months converted into 99 months, almost 30, the dispute went back and forth, and United States mostly saying that they needed more time. But in October of 2014, both countries reached an agreement, whatever that means, because Indonesia withdrew its request while the US withdrew its objection, and the arbitrator considered it had completed its works. The end. But nowadays, it's still illegal to sell Cretex in the United States, so it seems that nothing happened. So, trying to reach the extra mile, I found two interesting notes from a newspaper that gave me a little bit of insight of this situation. First is from the New York Times. They wrote about new findings from the FDA, in which it says that the mint flavor made it easier to start smoking and harder to quit for young people, and that for investigating furthermore, the FDA solicited to the public comments on potential regulations of menthol flavored cigarettes. So far until today, nothing happened about that. The other note is from The Hill, a local online newspaper, and it was from an interview to apparently a big fish at that time. And it says, the first point is, the bottom line from the United States perspective is that the flavoring ban stays in place, and Indonesia agrees to that the dispute is over. And second, every dispute like this one has an end. And this one ended because both sides agreed that it was creating more problems to their long-term relationship than it was worth. To wrap things up, if you search online, there are plenty of international online websites that sells Cretex directly to the American consumers. It is still illegal to sell Cretex in the United States, but apparently it's not illegal to buy them for personal consumption to one of these websites. I rest my case. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I'm truly sorry that we don't have a question section in my presentation because obviously it's not interactive. But if you have one, you can reach me at my email or my phone number, which you already have, and I can try to clarify or not the doubt you have. Again, thank you and have a good afternoon. Bye.